I'm Jordan Smotherman, a coach here with Strong Swift Durable, and we're looking at a sample strength session today. I kind of want to walk you through how to think about it and how to perform it in an efficient manner so that you can get through the session in 60 minutes. Almost every single strength session that we design and almost every training session that we design, unless it's in a sport-specific training program, will be meant to do in 60 minutes. And today we're going to be looking at a classic sort of design that we use to train strength, but the principles apply to any different type of strength training we'll have you do, no matter what the actual program says, what the actual session says. The principles that I'm going to talk about here are going to be pretty universal across the different types of strength programs that we may put up. So let's go ahead and look at the session, and I'll point out some differences where you may see depending on the program. But here's the session. We're going to warm up here with 4 rounds. We're going to start out with 6 hinge lift, 45 to 65 pounds, 6 hang power cleans, 45 to 65 pounds, 6 front squats, same weight, 6 push-ups, and the instep stretch. So we're looking for this warm-up right here to take you about 10 minutes. Now, if you look here, 3 are your movements: the hinge lift, the hang power clean, the front squat. They all use the same piece of equipment, a barbell loaded for females at 45 pounds and for males at 65 pounds. And also, if you think about the movements, if you're familiar with these movements, then the hinge lift goes from the floor up to your waist. The hang power clean goes from your waist up to your collarbones, and then the front squat, the bar is going to rest on your collarbones. So these movements are designed to go kind of up your body so they flow into one another really smoothly. So you'll be able to link the first 6 reps right into the second 6 reps, and then the second 6 reps right into the third set of 6 reps. And then you'll just drop your barbell, bust out 6 push-ups real quick, do an instep stretch on each leg, and then roll right into the second round. So this is only going to take you at most about 90 seconds, and that's with a pretty long stretch. It's not going to take us a long time to get through that. For those of you who have been following our stuff for a while, you'll recognize those first 3 movements are the first 3 movements in the barbell complex. The barbell complex would add in push press and then also a back squat into that. But still, you can link everything together because the bar is going to come up your body, up to your collarbones, push press overhead, and then you can drop it onto your back and do back squats. So we expect our athletes to be able to get through 4 rounds of the barbell complex in 10 minutes. And it's really easy to do if you're familiar with the movements. It does take a little bit of getting used to there at the beginning. So it's important that you are able to recognize, and we'll provide this for you in the session, in our warm-up design, that it's going to use limited pieces of equipment. It's going to warm up your whole body like this does, and you're going to mostly, unless we have some sort of running in there, you're going to be able to do it in a pretty small piece of real estate, so you don't have to move all around your gym. And pretty much for all of our strength programs, we expect the warm-up to take about 10 minutes. So here's what a round through the warm-up would look like. I'm going to do 6 hinge, 6 hang power clean, right into 6 front squat, set the bar down, 6 push-ups, and then the instep stretch. What I want you to notice is how I linked all those movements together. Didn't need to set the barbell down or anything, one right into the other. And I can go right into my instep stretch. Now I'll go right into round 2. You get done with this, we're going to go into front squat 1 RM here, and we expect you to be able to find your 1 RM for just about any lift in about 10 minutes. Now, how do we expect you to do that? Well, if you're training on your own or training with a buddy, we expect you to be able to just simply access your prior knowledge. What's a prior front squat 1 RM? Or if you've never 1 RM'd a front squat, maybe. It may take you a little bit longer, honestly, if you've never done a front squat 1 RM. But if you've done a back squat 1 RM, then maybe if you figure about 65 to 70% of that's going to be about your front squat 1 RM, maybe a little bit less if you've never done it. But anyway, you can access your prior knowledge to predict what it's going to be, or you can say, well, you know, at the beginning of this cycle, whenever we 1 RM'd front squat, I was at, let's say, 225. Since we've been working on it through the cycle, I probably expect to be about, 255, 245, let's say. And then you can sort of predict where you're going to be. And so you can work through this, 1 RM really quickly. Now, what we'll typically do is start out here with a light warm-up. We're just getting our joints moving and everything. And then as we come into this 1 RM, we're not gonna try to blow the doors off on the very first set. We want you to find it in 10 minutes, but we want you to be prepared for each subsequent load. So a lot of times we'll just start about 60%, 70% of our prior 1 RM, or what we predict we'll be able to get, and then we'll go up about 10%. Now this is, I say about, and we never calculate this. This is just something that we use our training experience and our prior knowledge to sort of figure it out as we work through it. So, but we'll go up about 10%. So let's say I expect to get about 225 pound front squat. That's going to be a 10% gain. For me, it's going to be, so I'll go like 60, 70, 80, so about 3, and then this 90 to 95% in there. I'm not going to shoot exactly for 90 or 95, but I want to get close to what I predict my max to be. That way, on the set after this one, I can go right at it or slightly above it. So if I know that I did 225 at the beginning of the cycle, I don't want to waste my time doing 225. I know I can do that. I want to go ahead and shoot for something a little bit higher, maybe 230, something like that. So around round 5 or 6, you'll go somewhere between 100 to 100 pounds, maybe, and then from there you'll go up, 5 or 10 pound increments. You should be pretty close. So if you look at this, we're looking at about 1, 2, 3, 4 to 5, 6, 7, maybe 8, but most likely around 7 is what we find that we can normally find our 1 RM in. And again, that's if you've been following for a while. Maybe 8 if you haven't been, or maybe even 9 if you're just really not sure what your 1 RM is going to be. But you should be able to find it quickly. So it's not something where you do a set and then you rest for 5 minutes and then you come back up and you do another set and then you rest for 5 minutes. You don't really need all that rest. You should be able to work through it efficiently. And when we think about these 60, 70, 80% sets, they're not going to be really heavy for you. They're not going to be super challenging. And so you don't need a bunch of rest before you roll into the next one. Another thing I'll say about this is that we'll typically do this for our rep loading. So at 6, around 8, 70%, 5, 80, 3, and then we'll drop into singles here. So we'll probably have 3 sets here where we're kind of working up a little bit. Again, loosen up our joints, getting used to handling that load. And usually it's about 8, 5, 3 or so, and then we'll start to get into our singles. Once we get into singles, we'll stay at singles until we find our 1 RM to keep it moving. After you find that, we'll look at the second part here. This is going to take you about 10 minutes as well. It's going to be 6 rounds, 2 front squats at 85% of your 1 RM. So you can just multiply 0.85 times whatever you found here, and that's the load you're going to use. Now we expect this to take you about 10 minutes because you're not going to be doing any switching of weights or anything like that. You're going to know your load. It's going to be fixed. If you're training with a partner, you're just going to figure out real quick what weights you have to switch out each time, if any, and then you'll be able to work through really quickly. So we follow this up with a stretch, and this is a really common question we get. A lot of people ask us, a lot of our athletes ask us, hey, how long am I holding this, lat plus pec stretch? Honestly, we're not going to tell you a time to hold the stretch. Usually as a thumb rule, about 3 to 5 breaths works for each side, or if it's a unilateral stretch, which a lot of them are. But really what we like to tell people is make sure that you're finishing the session in 60 minutes. So that means if you got to give up a little bit of stretch time, then go ahead and do that if it's taking you a little bit longer to get through some of the working stuff. But you should still give yourself enough time to rest a little bit and then roll into the next round. So this will go pretty quickly for you. And then what we have here is a little upper body circuit, maybe a sample that would have you go through, and we expect you to take this to take you about 15 minutes, because now we're throwing in a push and a pull with the upper body, and then also a stretch for our lower body. Now the way that we write it here is up arrow, then HBD, which is just hard but doable. But on the site, typically what you'll read is increase load until this rep number, whatever it may be, 5, 4, 8, is hard but doable. What we mean by that, by hard but doable, is that we expect you to be able to do all 5 reps unbroken with good form, and for every set. Now we expect you also to be able to get higher as you go through, so you're not going to start with hard but doable right here on the first round, but by about round 3 or 4, that's when we expect you to be at your hard but doable load. So for example, if my hard but doable load on military press was something like 135, then round 1 I do maybe 95, round 2 I do 115, round 3 I do 130, and then round 4, 5, and 6 I'm working at 135, and maybe trying to squeeze in another 5 pounds if I feel good that day. But if I fail at, let's say, rep 3 or 4, then I'm immediately going to drop weight to finish the set. And then on the next set, I'm not going to load myself so heavy because it was too hard for it to be doable. And then right here, we're going to follow that up with a pull. Females are going to do 3, males are going to do 5, and chin-ups in this case, and then pigeon stretch. And just like the lat plus pec stretch in the little circuit above, we're not going to prescribe a certain amount of time for that. About 3 to 5 breaths on each side. Feel the stretch. Go ahead and move on to your next round. That way, because you have to figure you're going to change you're probably going to be changing load, so that's going to take a little bit of time as well. That time is rest time when you're changing the load on the barbell. So if you're sitting here stretching for a minute and then you go and you figure, oh, I'm going to go ahead and change my weights, what am I going to put on and everything, then now you're starting to get into 90 seconds of just rest, which is going to eat pretty heavily into your session time. And then on this last one right here, we've got 6 rounds, 4 power clean, increased load but hard but doable. And then right here it says then immediately we want you to do 2 broad jumps, and you're going to jump as far as you can with these 2 broad jumps. And then we've got another stretch in here. So what do we mean by then immediately? What does this mean? Okay, so I've got 4 power cleans, so I'm going to be doing this explosive movement where I take it from the ground all the way up to my collarbones. And again, I want to be able to do all 4 without broken, with good form. Let me say also on this hard but doable that it's okay if you struggle with the weight. Struggling is good. That's showing you that you have enough resistance, that it's not just a waste of your time. At the same time, we want you to be cautious so that you don't injure yourself or anything like that. So struggling with good form is fine, and we want you to be prudent with your loading, but not overly cautious. And then onto the broad jump here. What I mean by then immediately, here in our facility, we would expect an athlete to drop the barbell off the 4th one, take a step over to our turf, and immediately do their 2 broad jumps. You may be in a gym that doesn't allow you to really quickly move into an open space. So what we want you to do is just shoot to get this explosive movement after this in about 20 seconds. And the idea behind this is something called the post-activation potentiation. So in order to do that, you had to be within a certain time frame in order to really use that. And then the Bandit's gap stretch, again, not a certain amount of time, 3 to 5 breaths is a thumb rule. Make sure that you're finishing everything in 60 minutes. So again, our time breakdown would look like this: about a 10-minute warm-up, 10-minute front squat, 1 RM, 10-minute of working sets here with our front squat, 15 minutes through our upper body circuit where we got a push-pull combined with a stretch, and then 15 minutes through this little total body, kind of low volume total body work right here with the explosive movement afterward, and then a stretch after each thing. Here's how that last circuit should look, where in this example it was 4 power clean into 2 broad jumps immediately, and then a stretch, the banded gap stretch in this case. Obviously in this example, this isn't really my hardwood doable, but just to show you kind of the pace that you'd work through it at. So those are some elements of how you work through a strength session.